All right, guys, you should be on the second part of your percent of a number notes. Remember, we're finding the part, the piece. They gave us a percent. They gave us the total, the whole number of items or people or places or whatever they're asking for, and we want the part percent. 40 is 20% of 200. 20 is 25% of 80. So moving on to the next. This is more common, this next strategy I'm about to show you. This is the one Miss Madera even uses today when I want to quickly figure out percents. So it should say on your notes something like, the most common strategy is to find percent of a number. First, you're going to change the percent to either a fraction or you can change it to a decimal. Now, I want to take a minute and explain why. So we have, if you see a number like this one up here, 25%, or this one, 20%, if it has the percent symbol, it's not ready to do actual math work. It needs to be represented in a fraction form or a decimal form. It's kind of like when you wear special clothes to play sports. These ones are ready to run and jump and do the hard work, moving decimals, simplifying fractions. This one is like a pretty little outfit for the percent. It's not ready to do real math. It looks nice. It represents a percent. They all can represent a similar number, but if I want to actually solve using multiplication or division, I'm going to have to use either a fraction or a decimal. This is not ready to do real hardcore math. I need these guys to help me out. Okay, moving on. So once you change your percent, you got to change it into one of these, either a fraction or a decimal. Then you're going to multiply by the whole, by the total. And then, basically your final answer would be the whole or total times the whole that's not right. The whole times the, change this to percent equals the part. That's what you want. Now, if it's not changed on your notes, make sure you cross it out and put percent there. So I'm going to show you 4 ways. 2 of them are going to be in decimal form. We're going to change the percents into decimals. And the other 2, we'll change them into fractions to find the part. So I'm going to zoom in. What is 10% of 45? You're going to hear Miss Madera say this. Of not only means the whole number of 45, but of is also a clue to multiply. You're going to see Miss Madera with her arms crossing them like of something. So we're going to first set it up. 10%. You can either represent it as 10 over 100 or 0.10. This is not ready. I can't use the pretty percent. It's too pretty. I got to do either a fraction or a decimal. Well, I already decided I'm going to do a decimal, so this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to follow my directions. I'm going to multiply by the total and then get my answer. So I'm going to put 0.10 times 45. Again, I have my percent, but now it's written as a decimal. It's not a pretty percent. And then I have my total. So now I'm just going to multiply like I ordinarily would with decimals in the factors. 0 times 5 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 0 times 5 is 0. Tic-tac-toe. 0 times 4 is 0. 1 times 4 is 4. 0 times 4 is 0. Add them up. And don't forget, it's all about the swoops, count them over. I swooped 2 spaces in my problem. I have to swoop 2 spaces in my answer. So now this is the same as 4.5. That, is the part. And I've done that. I followed my directions. I changed my percent to a fraction or a decimal. In this case, it was a decimal. I multiplied my percent and my total and got my part. Moving on. We're going to do the same thing again. I have 32%, I can either write that as 32 over 100 or 0.32. These are all equivalent, but this one's pretty. It's a pretty percent. I can't use it. I got to use a fraction or a decimal. I chose decimal, so that's what I'm going to do. Scoop this over. So I have 0.32 times my total. Well, 60 is my total. So again, I have my percent. In this case, it's in decimal form. I have my total, and I'm just going to multiply them as normal. So I have 2 times 0 is 0. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is, guess what? It's 0. Tic-tac-toe. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Carry the 1. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 0, 2, 9, 1. It's all about the swoops, count them over. So I went 1, 2 swoops, in my problem. So I do 1, 2 swoops in my answer. So 19.2, that's my part. Because you're going to do a lot of different math with your upcoming practice, I really want you guys to label what is the part. Because you're going to have a lot of different numbers. You got your percents, your fractions, your decimals, your work for your multiplication. You won't be able to use a calculator in this case because I want you to practice solving these on your own. So once you have these 2 decimal pieces on your notes, you're good to scoot on. Feel free to pause if you need to. Now, we did 2 with decimals. Now it's time to do 2 with fraction form. So at first I have my 5%. It's saying, what is 5% of 20? Or excuse me, 120. Of is a clue to multiply. So before I can do that, that percent's too pretty. I got to change it. It could either be 5 over 100 or 0.05. Either one would work. And it's up to you. Eventually, you guys will feel more comfortable like, oh, I'd rather do the decimal, or oh, I'd rather do the fraction. It's totally your preference as long as you're following the steps correctly for both options. So I decided I want to do the fraction. So I'm going to set it up. I have 5 over 100 of, that's times, 120 over 1 because it's a whole number. So I have my percent. I have my whole, that's AL, or my total, written in fraction form, and now I'm ready to just multiply across. 5 times 120 is 600. 100 times 1 is 100. I'm going to bring it down here. 600 over 100 simplified is 6 over 1, or you can just say the final answer is 6. That is your, your part. So what is 5% of 120? 6 is 5% of 120. So make sure you have all of that. Your setup, your percent is set up as a fraction. Your whole number is also set up as a fraction. And then you need to simplify. If you just left it as 600 over 100, I'd be very disappointed because you can easily simplify that. And you need the final single part. All right, let's try another one. What is 25% of 80? Well, first I got to change this. That's a pretty percent. I'm not ready yet. I can write 25% as 25 over 100, or it could be 0.25. Well, I want to practice with fractions, so it's going to be 25 over 100. So I'm going to set that up. 25 over 100 times 80 over 1. That's where I'm getting this number from, my total in fraction form. Sorry, that should be a 0. 25 times 80, well, that's actually 2,000. 100 times 1 is 100. So if I'm going to simplify this, I need to know how many times does 100 fit into 2,000. Tip, a 0 can cancel out another 0, so tick, 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 tick. Now I'm left with 20 over 1. See how I got that 20 and the 1 by itself? I got rid of these extra zeros. And this simplified is just 20. That is my part. So make sure you have all of these steps clearly marked on your notes, because you are going to need them and know, where did I get these numbers from? Why do I have this fraction represented? Why is this over 1? So that you can accurately find the part. When you're ready, you can go on to the back. These first ones, you need to use a tape diagram. So I will tell you the first one, you should break it up into 4 boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second one, I would break it up into 5 boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Hopefully it's neater on your paper. So there's your tape diagrams to get you started. Then the same can be said for all the other ones. You can either make a tape diagram, change the percents into decimals and multiply, or change the percents into fractions and multiply. All right, you guys now have all the tools you need to find the percent of a number, or basically you're finding the part. All right, guys, get to it.